Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
So today's video is about communication barrier, where our main characters don't communicate, can't communicate for whatever reason. So I'm excited for this one. I love this trope.
Yes. So grab your trope journal and let's get started.
Yeah.
But first, hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed to us, because we are so close to our road to 1K giveaway. You want to win these books. They are fantastic. They are by one of our favorite authors, Karen Crompton. You definitely want to win these books. So make sure you've hit that subscribe button and follow us on Instagram for an extra entry.
Okay. All right. So do you want to tell them why they need to grab their trope journals? They could write this in their trope journal.
Well, I grabbed my trope journal so I can do the video because I have my tropes in here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if this is a trope that you love, you grab your trope journal, you find the C's, and you write in communication barrier, and then you put these books in underneath that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So I think this is our first time doing a communication barrier one. Do you want to say something about the journal? You flopped it. This is our first time doing a communication barrier video, but I love communication barrier. There's a lot of books out there that are very popular that have them that we didn't include in this list because we wanted to give you some different ones. Like one of my favorite is The Golden Dynasty. Ice Planet Barbarians has a lot of them.
Archer by Mia Sheridan.
Archer's Voice.
Yeah, Archer's Voice,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. There's a lot out there. I mean, I'm looking at this list. There's even Credence by Penelope Douglas. There's a lot, there's quite a few out there, but we wanted to give you some ones that we don't see as often, and hopefully we did that. So we each have 5, so we got 10 for you guys. So let's get started.
Ready, Jessica?
I'm ready. Okay, so the first book that I have is Row by Dylan Page. This one isn't a very long book, but this one takes place in the 70s, and our heroine, who is Kate, is on a kayaking trip in this national forest that has just opened up in Oregon with some friends of hers from college. She writes a letter to her parents saying, I'm going to go off and do this, and they go. And I think the reason why Dylan puts this in the 70s is because you don't have the communication like we do now. You don't have the cell phones and the satellites and all that other stuff that we have now. So she and her friends are on this adventure. They do something really stupid and they get off the beaten path on the river. And there's an accident that happens and she gets separated from everybody. And she's in the middle of this wilderness when she gets out of it. And she encounters Roe. And he saves her one night from some bad people. But he's kind of like a caveman, kind of. And they live in this forest, but he doesn't speak English, obviously. And this is their story. I love this book. Mandy, not so much, but I love this. They can't communicate. She has to learn his language. She has to learn what he wants. It's not going to be for everybody, but I loved it. And she promises this is the first book in a series. We haven't got the other books yet. Dylan Page is slower to write, but she's also gone through a divorce recently, so that could be slowing her down. But I'm ready for the next book in the series. I really want it. So we'll see when we get that.
Didn't Dylan Page write Torment?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, she did.
Maybe that's why I didn't like the book.
Maybe. Okay. So what's your first rec?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so my next book is one that somebody hasn't read, and it's really an embarrassment to our book channel. It is shameful.
You know, you shame me about my reading all the time. What's up with that? She's just playing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I know what it is now.
Oh, really? What is it?
It's one of Neva's books.
Yes. What's the name of it?
I don't know. It's the last one. I haven't read it yet. I probably couldn't rattle off any of them, right? Because I just know what characters and what happens in each one. I don't
I
necessarily
can name
know.
them.
You had to look.
Broken Whispers, Hidden Truths.
You're looking. If I went over and looked at them, I could name them. Okay.
I kid with Jessica, and if you watched our channel, you should understand our banter.
Mm-hmm.
Although there was a little bit of seriousness in those comments.
Could you just tell them about the book?
Yes, let me please.
Okay.
Okay, this is number 8 in the Perfectly Imperfect series. You do not need to read these in order. They can be read as standalones. Although if you read them in order, it just kind of gives you an overall better experience with the whole series. I loved all of them. So you would not be wrong to read the whole series. Anyways, so number 8 is called Silent Lies, and this is about Drago and Sienna. Drago has some significant hearing loss that leads him to not be able to hear everything as well. So like male voices, I think he hears a little bit better than like more high-pitched female voices, but he's gotten very good at lip reading, and only a couple people in his inner circle really know how bad his hearing loss is. Sienna has been through some trauma, and she is asked by the head of their mafia, the Don, I guess, asked her to marry Drago. And this is supposed to kind of solidify the families, but he's actually asking her to spy on him. So she agrees because she lives with her brother and she feels like she needs to move out so her brother can have his own life because he's been taking care of her and her sister since they were little. And so Sienna goes and marries Drago, and this is their story. And oh my God, it's so good. So good. You have to read it. Have to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Although I am slightly envious that you could go read a Neva Altai book that you've not read. I have to wait till in March.
Yeah.
So sad.
I'm sorry. Okay. Mandy's probably like a lot out there. Just wants to get amnesia so she can reread her favorite books again. But, you know. That would suck. Okay. Anyhow. Let's talk about my next one. I mean, it was sent
Weird
from
comments.
Me.
Weird comments.
Please. Yeah. Okay. Anyhow. So my next rec is Echo by Seven Rue. This you have to get off of her website. It's not available on Amazon. But this is about Echo, who is 18 and she is living in Juneau. And she's living with an abusive stepdad. And so she takes off one day. She makes a break for it. She's running through the woods. She's running barefoot through the woods. And she finds a cabin, a hunter's cabin that's in the forest, and she hunkers down in there. And then a few days after that happens, these 3 brothers, who are Willem, Norden, and Summit, show up because it's their hunting cabin. Now this is an age gap. It's a pretty big age gap. There's like a 19-year age gap between the oldest brother and Echo, but she can't talk. She does sign language. She can hear, but she's mute because of some vocal cord damage when she was born. One of the brothers knows sign language, but the other 2 don't. So there's a lot of interpretation by Summit. And then there's also, she writes on a picture frame that they flipped over a picture on the inside so it's white so she can write notes to the guys. But that is where the communication barrier comes in, is 2 of them don't know sign language, 1 of them does. So I really enjoyed this book a lot. It is a reverse harem because she gets to have all 3 brothers. And, you know, I'm not sad about it at all.
My next book is the one that you read. And you forced me to read it. No, I'm kidding. You convinced me to read it. It was very good. Mm-hmm. And it is now going to be here in our communication barrier.
Okay.
So this is A Little Stranger by Lee Rivers. It is a wild, I mean, I'll just show you what I wrote for my notes. So, you know, this is a wild ride. Okay, this is about Olivia and Malachi. they are foster siblings. So Olivia gets adopted into the family first, and then Malachi comes, I think, a year or two later, and he's a year older than Olivia. And he has had some serious trauma, so he does not speak and he signs, and he is instantly like obsessed with Olivia. And this is kind of uh, where the story goes. So he will communicate through sign with Olivia, but he is a little standoffish to the rest, like to his adoptive parents, I would say. And they are, let's just be honest, they're a little bit afraid of him because he's kind of off his rocker. But Olivia does not worry about that. Like, he's very different with her, I guess you could say. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to talk about this book, Jessica. I'm like kind of talking in circles. I don't want to give anything away. Basically, what you need to know is it is dark, it is crazy, it is really good, and he
And
does not communicate.
he's selectively mute.
Yeah,
So they both
he
inside.
communicates through sign, mainly only to Olivia.
Yeah, I love in the first when they're in their meet cute when he's signing and she's little, she's like 6. She doesn't understand what he's saying to her, but he's making the sign for mine. Like the minute he meets her, he's like, she's mine. Like that's how crazy he is. And I was here for it.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Okay. So the next book that I have is Hush Darling by Avery Kingston. This is about Mia and Tanner. So Mia is married when the book starts out, and she is married to a mafia boss, and he is very cruel to her. And she had tried not to get pregnant, but things failed. She finds out she's pregnant. One of her close friends is her obstetrician, and they make a plan for her to escape and fake her own death. And so that is what she does. She fakes her own death and she escapes the husband. So while she's on the run, she gets caught up in a snowstorm somewhere around the Canadian border and in like New York, East Coast, the other side from where we're at. And she gets caught up in a snowstorm, and she takes refuge in a cabin that's like a series of cabins that are rented out in the summer. And that is where she meets Tanner. He owns the cabins. He finds her and he lets her stay there. But Tanner is deaf, and he's really proud of being deaf and being a part of the deaf community. He does teach her quite a bit of sign language, but you have a woman on the run who is, forced proximity to Tanner because she has to be there. They're snowed in kind of, and but she's pregnant with somebody else's child, and that man is he'll figure it out. So what happens with that? Loved it.
I wanted to read that.
You can read it. Just because I read it doesn't mean that you don't have to need to read it.
No, I'm just saying I wanted to read it. It's on my TBR.
Okay.
Okay. My next one made me cry.
Darn.
So it is not dark, although it has a little bit of a dark element to start off, but it is The Silent Waters by Brittany Cherry. So this is about Maggie and Brooks. And Maggie, when she is 10, she has fallen in love with Brooks and she is going to marry him. She tells him they are getting married. She tells him what he needs to wear and where to meet her out in the woods. And Maggie shows up there ready to marry him, and Brooks is not there. And Maggie stumbles upon something, a crime happening out in the woods that she should not have seen, obviously, because it's a crime. That made no sense. Sorry. So she sees this and she basically kind of has a mental break and she stops talking. And their family, I don't know how well the stepmom handles the whole situation. And basically Maggie becomes a shut-in and she doesn't talk. She gets homeschooled and she's just too terrified to leave the house after this happens. They say they got her therapy, but I don't know. to me, I was like, I just don't know about this poor girl. So, anyways, this goes on. And when she's a teenager, Brooks continues to come and visit her, and he finds different ways to communicate with her. And they use a whiteboard and message like write back and forth to each other and stuff. And it's just super sweet. And then Brooks, when they're kind of like towards the end of high school, Brooks realizes like he really likes her. And so they become boyfriend and girlfriend, and it's very sweet. But then Brooks is in a band with Maggie's brother, and their band makes it. And so Brooks has to make the decision along with Maggie. Does Maggie like ask Brooks to stay in this town with her, or does she encourage him to go out and do his thing? And oh, the story is heartbreaking. I cried many different times. So if you're looking for angst, that book definitely brings the angst. But it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
I read it, but I didn't cry.
Shocker.
Yeah, okay. But it is very good, yes.
Let's just say, but if you have not watched our channel, just an FYI, Jessica doesn't cry during books. So Jessica's comment about not crying is not a good indicator of the emotionalness of a book.
No, never is. Never.
All
okay.
Right.
So my next book is Kingdom Fall by A. Zavarelli. I love A. Zavarelli's writing. She writes kind of grittier things a lot. Really? So this is mafia adjacent. It's part of her Underworld Kings. So it's kind of like secret society more than it is mafia. But this is about Alessio and Natalia. So Alessio has a son, a young son, and he's looking for a nanny. And that is where Natalia comes in. She gets hired on as the nanny. She cannot speak. She wears a lot of scarves. We find out that she has a scar across her throat. But I'm not giving away why. But she has that. And so she uses sign language to communicate, and she teaches sign language to Alessio's young son. Now, she also has an agenda of her own. She is coming into this home with an agenda so that like she wants to destroy Alessio. There's reasons, like she's got her own reasons, and she has like we know that there's stuff going on. There's more than meet the oh my gosh. There's more to the story. She ends up like she sleeps with like her clothes on and the light on and her shoes on, and just like ready to go at any moment. Like there's all these things happening, and it definitely takes you on a wild ride. But this book was so good, and you've got the communication barrier because he doesn't know sign language. So
Right.
okay.
Okay, my next book is actually, ironically, like the only book that has made you cry.
Oh man, yeah, sobbed like a friggin' baby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm talking about Transcendence by Shay Savage. Oh my gosh, every time I tongue twist on her name. So this is about Ed. Everything is from Ed's point of view, and Elizabeth, or Bay, as she's known in the book. So Ed is a caveman, like straight up, we're talking caveman days. He is not able to communicate. The author has a note at the beginning that explains this a little bit. And Elizabeth, one day is at a museum. She's looking. Her dad, isn't it her dad or is it her mom?
Her mom is the archaeologist. Her dad is the scientist.
Okay, yeah. So her dad, both of her parents work at this museum, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's at the museum where her parents work, and something happens, and she gets transported back to Ed's time, like straight up caveman times. And she talks to him, but he has no idea what she's saying. And I just love Ed so much. He immediately is like, "This is my mate. I love you," and brings her back to his cave and is ready to start their life together. He is like the best hero ever. So everything we are seeing is all from his point of view. If you ever want Elizabeth's point of view, you can read Loves. It's a novella and it's all from her point of view. So I read that afterwards and I love that one too. So it's so much fun reading about the two of them and how Ed is like his whole thought process is like she's my mate, I need to breed her, and she talks all the time. Ed doesn't really, he can't talk. He makes a few noises for communication, but that's about it. And so when she's like going on and on, like he like worries that she's crazy, but it doesn't matter to him because that's his mate. He loves her. Like, I just love the story so much.
I
So
love
there's a
it.
little, hmm?
He's always like, she can let me put a baby in her now. She can let me put a baby in her now. That was like, I was like, oh, I think I have a breeding kink when I was reading this book. That is where I was first introduced to that.
Yeah. And Ed has like a sad backstory too. So you like really feel for him and you want this to work for him so badly. Like you don't even hope that Elizabeth makes it back to modern time.
Yeah, no. There's no need. No. So I love that book. That story is just epic.
Yes,
Awesome.
it's so good.
Yeah.
So read it.
Okay. So for my last one, this one's a little bit different. So this is My Toren by Kay Webster. So this is about Toren and Cassie. So Cassie is just about to turn 18. She wants to get out of her town. She wants to get away. She's just biding her time until that happens. And then one day, this chance encounter happens outside of a business, and it has to do with a penny that she finds on the ground. And that is when she meets Tyler and Toren. And Tyler is Toren's older brother, and he makes an offer that she can't refuse. And so she goes home with them. And Toren's a little, he's very different. He's autistic and he cannot communicate. He does not speak much at all, if he does. And it's explained in the book. It's explained at the end. There's some videos to go watch. Like, he's fully capable of thinking these thoughts, but he can't get the words out, and that is really frustrating for him. Something happens. There's a major thing that happens in this book that it was pretty sad, but it forces Toren to be more independent and be able to open up and live his life, and that is where he and Cassie kind of take off. Loved this story, have never read anything else like it. It was just so different and it was so good. I think this is like one of the first books I read after reading The Wild by Kate Webster. So loved this book.
Yeah. My last book is a historical romance.
Okay.
Also, that reminds me, I really want to read Toren by Kay Webster.
I know it's on your TBR. I saw it. Yeah.
Yes. You can just remind me of this the next time I'm complaining there's nothing to read.
I'll try to remember.
Okay. So mine is A Notorious Vow by Joanna Shup. And this is about Christina and Oliver. Christina's family. So we're back in like the Gilded Age. So Christina's family comes from Europe over to America because they have blown all their money and they need to come over here to try and marry Christina off so they can get money again. Horrible, but this is just the way it is back then, I guess. So they find this like really old guy, and Christina's mom is like, well, don't worry, he's gonna die soon. This is like really the best marriage for you. And he's like a mean, nasty old man, and she wants nothing to do with him. And she's very upset about this. In the meantime, she meets Oliver because she wanders through his gardens. And Oliver is deaf and he's very wealthy and he really wants nothing to do with people in general. And she basically forces him to be her friend and then ends up getting him directly involved in this whole like I don't want to marry this old man thing, whole drama. And he agrees to marry her. rather reluctantly in a very platonic relationship for 1 year so she doesn't have to marry this other guy and they can form a plan to get her onto her own life. But Christina would really like for this to be like an actual marriage because she kind of likes Oliver. And then Oliver has some like nasty family members that want to try and claim that he's incompetent since he's deaf and get him committed. And so this is not only Christina's trying to get out of these like creepy marriage thing and deal with her parents, it's also Oliver's story too on all of this family drama and being committed and stuff. So it's really good.
Okay. All right, guys. So there you have it. There's all of the communication barrier books that we have for you, or recommendations we have for you.
And we are all over, from like dark to lighthearted to historical romance. I mean, there is something in there for you.
Yeah. And I mean, I even have a list of like more books that we could always do this again at some point, but I don't think Mandy had as many. So yeah.
I don't right now. No.
Yeah. Okay. Future video.
Yes. So make sure to comment below what are some books in this trope that you like. And you can always comment on future videos that you would like to see from us as well. Make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.